تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So the last time we were in the section regarding the weighing scale, the wazn, and we were talking about the different scenarios that can arise when the balance on the weighing scale occurs. The first scenario was if the good deeds are heavier than the evil deeds, even by just one, then that individual will certainly enter paradise. The second scenario was if the evil deeds, they are heavier than the good deeds. And with this scenario, some of the scholars, many of the scholars, they hold the opinion that the person is تحت مشيئة الله, under the will of Allah. However, قال بعض أهل العلم إنه يدخل النار حتما, that the person with more evil deeds than good deeds will definitely enter the hellfire. However, he will not remain in the hellfire forever. If he died upon Tawheed, he will not remain in the hellfire forever. He will eventually be taken out and placed into paradise. The third scenario, الحالة الثالثة, تساوي الحسنات والسيئات, where the good deeds and the bad deeds, they are exactly equal. وهؤلاء يوقفون بين الجنة والنار مدة معينة ثم يصار بهم إلى الجنة. They will be made to wait for as long as Allah wills between paradise and hell. فهم أهل الأعراف. They are the people of Al-A'raf. They will wait there as long as Allah wills, and then in the end they'll be removed and taken to paradise. Then we also mentioned Man yustathna min al-wazn, who are the ones who are excused from the balance, from the weighing. ذكر بعض أهل العلم هذا الباب وأشاروا فيه إلى أكثر من طائفة. The scholars, they mentioned there are certain groups of people who are exempt from the weighing, exempt from the balance. And they mentioned several groups of people. الطائفة الأولى من لا حساب عليهم من المؤمنين فهل يوزنون? Those who have no accountability upon them from the believers, then are they given that weighing? ذهبت طائفة إلى أنهم لا يوزنون. A group of the scholars, they took the opinion that those believers who have no accountability, then they are not weighed up, their actions are not weighed up. منهم ابن حجر والقرطبي رحمهم الله. ومن باب أولى عندهم أن الأنبياء لا يوزنون، وكأن أصحاب هذا الرأي رأوا أن الوزن فرع عن الحساب، فمن لا حساب عليه لا وزن عليه. So the scholars who took the opinion saying that those people from the believers who have no accountability upon them, then they do not have the weighing scale either. According to them, the prophets are the first of the people in that case who will not have the weighing scale and the balance, because the prophets are the best of the people. They are better than the believers who have no accountability. And there are narrations about that. 70 ألفا من أمتي يدخلون الجنة بلا حساب ولا عذاب. 70,000 from my ummah will enter without accountability or punishment. And it is more than even the 70,000. If that is believers who will enter without accountability, the prophets are better than the believers. So according to them, the prophets and believers who have no accountability upon them, then the likes of them, they are not given this balancing of their deeds on the weighing scale on that day. Another mas'ala, ما الفائدة من وزن من ليس عنده إلا حسنات محضة? What is the purpose or the benefit of doing the weighing for someone who does not have anything other than pure good deeds? They only have their good deeds on that day. Then what is the purpose of doing the balance for them? They have only good deeds. قال القرطبي رحمه الله: وإنما توزن أعمال المؤمن المتقي لإظهار فضله وتحسينا وإشارة لخلوه من كل شر وتزيينا لأمره على رؤوس الأشهاد. It is done to highlight and to show the virtue of that servant, and to be an indication, an indicator upon how he was free of any type of evil, and a beautification and adornment for that individual in front of all of the people on that day. الطائفة الثانية الكفار هل يوزنون أم لا؟ The disbelievers, those who died upon other than Iman and Tawheed, we know they are going to be in the hellfire forever. So is there going to be any weighing for them? Is the weighing scale going to occur for them and their deeds? Is there any point to that if they are going to be in the hellfire forever anyway? خلاف على ثلاثة أقوال. The scholars, they differed, and there are three opinions. Three opinions as to whether the disbelievers, their deeds are weighed up or not. الأول أن الوزن حاصل لهم. The first opinion is that the kuffar who are going to be in the hellfire forever anyway, that the weighing scale of their deeds is done. It is done. وَالْأَدِلَّةُ عِدَّةٌ, and they have several evidences to prove that. قال تعالى: ومن خفت موازينه فأولئك الذين خسروا أنفسهم في جهنم خالدون. In this ayah, it mentions, and whomsoever their weighing scales are light, then they are the ones who lost themselves, and they are fi jahannama khalidun. Who are the ones who are in the Jahannam khalidun, forever? The kuffar. So this ayah is talking about the kuffar. And the ayah says, وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ فِي جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدُونَ. Those whose weighing scales are light, then they are the ones who are in loss of themselves, and in hellfire they will remain forever. That is talking about the kuffar. So it is talking about them, and their weighing scales will be light. وقال الله تعالى ونضع الموازين القسط ليوم القيامة فلا تظلم نفس شيئا. That the weighing scales of justice, the balance, will be laid out on that day, on the day of judgment, and no person, no soul shall be wronged on that day. قالوا, they said in this opinion, نفس عموم وهي نكرة في سياق النفي فتعم. They said that in this ayah it mentions فَلَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا. No person, no soul shall be wronged on that day. That is a general statement including all of the people. The believers, the non-believers, all of them are included in that statement. Not a single one of them will be wronged. Not a single one of them will be wronged. They will all have their judgment with precision and in the correct and due manner. So they said this includes the kuffar, that they will also be having the weighing scale on that day. القول الثاني أنهم لا يوزنون. The second opinion is that the kuffar on that day, their weighing scale is not done. Their deeds are not weighed up in the weighing scale. And the evidences they used, al-adillah, they said, قال تعالى أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه فحبطت أعمالهم فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا. That those who disbelieved in the ayat of their Lord and in meeting Him, their actions are destroyed, finished, and we will not establish any weight for them on the day of judgment. And we will not establish any weight for them on the day of judgment. قالوا الآية أفادت أن الوزن لا يقام للكفار. They said the ayah shows that the weighing scale will not be done for the disbelievers, because it says فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا. That we will not establish for them any weight on the day of judgment. They said that shows they're not going to have their deeds in the weighing scale on the day of judgment. However, other scholars who take the opinion the kuffar are going to have their deeds weighed, they responded to this claim and they said, نوقش قولهم هذا من وجهين. الوجه الأول, they said, أن المقصود من الآية أن الكفار لا قدر لهم عند الله. They said all the ayah means is that the kuffar, they do not have any value with Allah. They do not have any value before Allah. Not that their weighing scale and their deeds won't be done, but that they have no value before Allah. والوجه الثاني, قد يقال أن معنى الآية فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا نافعا. It could be said that the meaning is we will not establish for them any beneficial weight. That there will be weight for them on that day, but it will all be weight that is evil. As for beneficial weight for them on that day, the good side of their weighing scale being heavy, that will not occur for them on that day. So that is the second opinion. Some scholars believing that the kuffar, they do not have a weighing on that day. القول الثالث, the third opinion, there is some tafsil. There is some detail to it. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُوزَنْ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ لَا يُوزَنْ. In the third opinion it says, some of them will be weighed and some of them will not. وَاخْتَلَفُوا فِي تَحْدِيدِ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ. And they differed over the distinction between the two groups. Who are the ones who will be weighed and who are the ones who will not be weighed? They differed over the distinction and the criteria to determine which one is which. ومن ذلك ما ذكر ابن حجر رحمه الله أن الذي لا يوزن من الكفار هو من ليس عنده إلا كفر محض. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned that the ones who are not weighed, they are the ones who have nothing other than pure kufr. The ones who are upon pure kufr, then they are not weighed. فقال فمن الكفار من لا ذنب له إلا الكفر ولم يعمل حسنة فإنه يقع في النار من غير حساب ولا ميزان. Ibn Hajar said, there are those from the disbelievers who do not have any other sin except kufr itself. And they did not do any good deed. Kufr. They were upon their kufr. And they did no good deed. And so the likes of those disbelievers upon pure kufr without any good deed, they go instantly into the hellfire. There is no weighing scale or accountability for them. They are in the hellfire. وَأَمَّا مَنْ يُوزَنُ مِنْهُمْ فَمَنْ عِنْدَهُ حَسَنَاتٍ كَصِلَةِ الرَّحِمِ مثلا. And he said the ones who the ones who are weighed, they are the ones who have some good deeds. Like for example, they maintained the ties of kinship. وَهَذَا الْقَوْلُ فِيهِ نَظَرٌ. But this third opinion, you could make arguments against it. فإنه مما يبعد جدا أن يوجد كافر ليس له أي حسنة حتى لو كانت من أمثال إماطة الأذى. فيظهر من هذا أن الكفار يوزنون لما في ذلك من الأدلة الصريحة الظاهرة الدلالة. So this third opinion, it mentioned that those who have pure kufr and not a single good deed, they are not weighed. But the reality is, it's very unlikely there will be any kafir who has pure kufr and evil deeds and not a single good deed. It is unlikely. Even the kuffar, they may have some good deed, even if it is just removing something from the pathway. Even if it is removing something from the pathway, imatatul adha, like last week or 2 weeks ago when it snowed. When it snowed and I was in the country in the hills and the cars were stuck. Heavy storm of snow in the hills and the cars were stuck and nobody was moving. So some of the kuffar farmers, they came with their big cars, the big jeeps and 4x4s, and they were helping the people and moving the snow out of the way. Imatatul adha, removing the harm from the pathway. Even the kafir may do that and do some good and help somebody. So it is likely, therefore, the conclusion to all of this, it is likely that the kuffar, they are weighed. Their deeds are weighed on that day also. And that is, what is the benefit of that? ما الفائدة من وزن الكفار؟ إظهار عدل الله وإظهار خزيهم. To show the justice of Allah. They are weighed, their deeds are weighed up to show the justice of Allah. When it shows how their kufr outweighs any little deeds they may have done of goodness, but they were upon kufr and disbelief and shirk. And so it will show on that day, and their evil deeds will outweigh. And so this shows the justice of Allah upon them. And also because it will demonstrate their humiliation on that day. It will be a demonstration of the humiliation upon them on that day and the degradation upon them on that day. ومعرفة منزلته في أي الدركات من النار. And by doing the weighing, depending on how bad their evil side is, it will then judge, or it will then be able to be determined which pit from the pits of the hellfire they are going to be placed in. It can then be judged which pit from the pits of the hellfire, from the darakat, that they will be put into. That brings us to the end of the section regarding al-wazn. So now then we begin with the section regarding al-Ḥawḍ. Al-Ḥawḍ مجمع الماء أو مجمع الماء العظيم الذي يضعه الله في عرصات القيامة ويرد عليه المؤمنون، وهو من أوجه إكرام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. والحوض هو الموقف الوحيد من مواقف القيامة التي لم يرد ذكرها في القرآن وإنما ورد في السنة. So the Ḥawḍ is a large amount of water. The Ḥawḍ is a large amount of water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places on the Day of Judgment, on the lands of the Day of Judgment, and the believers will come and drink from it. And that is to ennoble the messenger. It is one of the means of ennobling and honoring the messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the Ḥawḍ is the one thing from the different affairs of the Day of Judgment that isn't mentioned in the Quran, but it's of course mentioned in the Sunnah. والأدلة على الحوض الأحاديث فيه بلغت حد التواتر. The narrations regarding the Ḥawḍ, the pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have reached the level of a tawatur. meaning multiple companions narrated this hadith. There are multiple chains of narration. جمع منها ابن حجر من رواية أكثر من 50 صحابيا. Ibn Hajar collected this hadith from over 50 different companions who narrated the hadith about the Ḥawḍ, the pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ونقل أن بعض المتأخرين أوصلها إلى 80 صحابيا. And he mentioned that some of the later scholars, they even collected 80 of the companions. 80 of the companions who narrated this hadith. ومن تلك الأحاديث, and from those narrations, there are many of them. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حوضي مسيرة شهر ماؤه أبيض من اللبن وريحه أطيب من المسك وكيزانه كنجوم السماء من شرب منها فلا يظمأ أبدا. That my pond, my Ḥawḍ, it is the distance of a month traveling, how big it is, and its water is white from milk, and its fragrance is, or it's whiter than milk, and the fragrance is more fragrant and better than misk, and the number of cups around it are like the number of stars in the sky, and whoever drinks from it will never be thirsty again. And in another narration, وَمِنْبَرِي عَلَى حَوْضِي, that my mimbar is upon my Ḥawḍ. So there are multiple narrations affirming the pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يتعلق بموضوع الحوض مسائل. There are several different issues connected to the Ḥawḍ. المسألة الأولى أي الموقفين قبل الحوض أو الصراط? Which happens first on the Day of Judgment? Is it this pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or is it the bridge, as-sirat, the bridge that you have to cross over hellfire to get to paradise? Is that bridge first and then this pond comes after the bridge, or is this pond first and then the bridge comes after? This is something the scholars they looked into. ذهب الإمام القرطبي رحمه الله إلى أن الحوض قبل الصراط والميزان. Al-Imam al-Qurtubi, he was of the opinion that this Ḥawḍ, this pond, it is before as-sirat, before the bridge over the hellfire, and before the weighing, before the balance and the weighing even. And he mentions some narrations regarding that and deduced from them this opinion. وذهبت طائفة إلى أن الصراط قبله وهو ظاهر تبويب البخاري رحمه الله. And some of the scholars, they took the opinion that the sirat, the bridge over the hellfire, comes first, then the Ḥawḍ comes after. That is the opinion of some of them. ومن أهل العلم من مال إلى أنهما حوضان، حوض قبل الصراط وحوض بعد الصراط. And there are some scholars who said there are two ponds, one which is before the bridge over the hellfire and one which is after the bridge. Some said there are two. ومنهم من قال أن الحوض يتسع حتى يشمل ما قبل الصراط وما بعده. منهم الشيخ حافظ الحكمي. And there are some scholars who said the pond is so large that it starts before the bridge over the hellfire and it carries on and finishes past the bridge over the hellfire. It extends the length of the bridge and beyond. So there are different opinions, and we're going to have a look at some of those about the size of the Ḥawḍ. But firstly, al-mas'alatu الثانية, the second issue here, هل الحوض موجود الآن? Is the Ḥawḍ of the Messenger already there right now? يعتقد أهل السنة أن الحوض موجود الآن. We believe as Ahl Sunnah that the Ḥawḍ is there now, already it's there. And there are narrations, again there are ahadith which highlight that it is already there. There is a hadith in Al-Bukhari where the Messenger said about it, وَإِنِّي وَاللَّهِ لَأَنظُرُ إِلَى حَوْضِي الْآنِ. That indeed I, by Allah, am looking at my Ḥawḍ right now, looking at my pond right now. المسألة الثالثة ما الفرق بين الحوض والكوثر؟ إنا أعطيناك الكوثر. That indeed we gave you Al-Kawthar. Is Al-Kawthar the same as Al-Ḥawḍ, or are they different? Anybody? Any fatwa? Any mufti? What is the difference, or is it the same? Al-Kawthar wal-Ḥawḍ. Is it the same or is it different? Huh? Different? So what is the evidence they are different, or how can you explain they are different?
Because what is it, Kawthar? It's like fuel.
أيوة.
Explication.
It's
I mean, in the word Kawthar, it's few tawfiq for this word. So three opinions. What is it, Kawthar?
Huh? It's a river. Kawthar is a river in Jannah. This is one difference. One difference is Al-Kawthar is in paradise. Al-Ḥawḍ fi arasat al-qiyamah. This is in the land of resurrection. The Ḥawḍ is in the land of resurrection. The Kawthar is in paradise. So they have to be something different. One is in paradise, one is in the موقف القيامة. So دلت الأدلة على أن الحوض غير الكوثر ويظهر هذا من خلال ما يأتي. So the evidences, they indicate the Ḥawḍ and the Kawthar, they are two different things. And there are evidences. الأول الحوض في موقف القيامة وأما الكوثر فإنه في الجنة. So the first thing, as we mentioned there, the Ḥawḍ is on the land of resurrection, whereas the Kawthar is in paradise. And also الثاني أن الكوثر أصل الحوض. الكوثر أصل الحوض ومنه يمد. That the Kawthar, the river in paradise, that is where the water comes from for the Ḥawḍ. The Ḥawḍ, this pond as they say maybe in English, then the water for that comes from Al-Kawthar. So there are two separate things again, Kawthar, and then the water comes from it, and then you have the Ḥawḍ. And there is a hadith about that. نهر وعدنيه ربي عز وجل في الجنة عليه حوض. So there is a clear difference between the two of them. المسألة الرابعة والأخيرة: هل لكل نبي حوض? Does every prophet on the day of judgment have a ḥawḍ, this type of pond of water, or is it only for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال: إن لكل نبي حوضا. That indeed every prophet shall have a ḥawḍ, will have this pond, a pond. وإنهم يتباهون أيهم أكثر واردة. And the prophets are all going to be like competing, who has the most people coming to their pond. وإني أرجو أن أكون أكثرهم واردة. And I hope to be the most of them from those who come to the pond. And so there are narrations of this nature that indicate that there is a pond for every prophet. وهذا نعم. So therefore this indicates that every prophet has a pond. But what is specific to the messenger though? Al-Kawthar. Al-Kawthar, that is khas bin Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But the ḥawḍ, then all of the prophets, they have a ḥawḍ. So that is where we'll have to stop today. And inshaAllah ta'ala, from next week it's going to be al-mas'alatul khamisah, sifatu ḥawḍihi. And within the sifat, one of the biggest discussions is going to be how big is the ḥawḍ? How big is the pond of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And there are many narrations about that, about how big it is. So we'll have a look at that from next week, inshaAllah. Remember, we begin at 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. inshaAllah ta'ala. We'll begin and we'll continue from next time. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.